In this video, I'm going to help you pass your Praxis Elementary Education Social Studies exam with confidence. We're talking about test code 7004. The Praxis Elementary Education Multiple Subjects exam is split into 4 subtests: Reading and Language Arts, Mathematics, Social Studies, and Science. Each contains a different amount of selected response questions. But for now, we're going to focus on Social Studies, which has 55 selected response questions that you'll need to answer in 55 minutes. Selected response questions can include multiple choice, numeric entry, or drop-down menu questions. Today, we'll cover 3 things: what content will be covered on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts you'll see on the exam, and we're going to look at a few practice questions. For our full study guide, click the link right here, or the one in the description. More information about that at the end of the video. Now, the Praxis Elementary Education Social Studies subtest consists of 3 categories that actually put multiple categories together. But you'll see what I mean. Let's go ahead and talk about some key concepts now, starting with our first category: United States History, Government, and Citizenship. This section has 25 questions. That's 45% of your exam. I know we're not talking math here, but that's almost half. The key areas you'll focus on here will be early U.S. history, major events in U.S. history, government and citizenship, and government documents and principles. These are the 7 major topics that you'll need to know in this first section. That's over 2 centuries of events and developments. Now, you could go dust off your old history textbook, or you could subscribe to the 240 study guide, where we've done the hard work for you. You can study with flashcards, practice quizzes, and videos, like this one about the Civil War. Psst. Take a look at this event that is highly likely to appear on this portion of the exam.
South Carolina chose to secede from the Union anyway, starting the Civil War. Mississippi seceded shortly after, followed by Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. Delegates from the seceded states elected Jefferson Davis of Mississippi as the President of the Confederate States of America. The northern states had clear advantages in a more industrialized economy and a larger population from which to recruit a greater number of military personnel. The North also had a stronger navy and could sustain trade during the war while blockading Confederate ports. The advantage of the Confederate Army was its superior military leadership from Robert E. Lee. At the beginning of the war, the Army also had the support of Great Britain, who relied on Southern cotton to feed its massive textile industry. The South had men who had grown up shooting and hunting and were familiar with the land on which they fought. In addition, the Confederate men tended to fight harder since they were on their own homeland.
And there's even more to the story. You probably remember how the war turned out, but drill into the details and subscribe to the 240 study guide. Okay, let's move on to another important piece that you'll see on the government and citizenship portion of this category. Federalism is a system of shared power between the national government and the states. There are differences in the powers of the national and state governments, but some powers do overlap. And you gotta know which is which, along with the effects of the system. Understanding core concepts like federalism will help you remember important facts about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the structure of federal and state governments. Let's get you involved. Here's an example of a practice question you may see in this category. The settlers of Jamestown Colony came to the New World seeking blank, while those who came later and settled at Plymouth were in search of blank. The answer is A, economic prosperity, religious freedom. Since the settlers at Jamestown came to form an economic enterprise, while those who came to Plymouth came from England primarily to find a place where they could freely practice their denominations of Protestantism. Did the Founding Fathers have 240 to help them? I bet they wish they did. Ready for the second category? The second consists of 16 questions, which is 20% of the exam. Let's stick to our pattern and highlight a key concept from the geography portion, and then one on anthropology and sociology. For the geography questions that you'll see, it's important to know where major land and water areas are located, and not just so you can pick out where to go on your next beach vacation. But it's important to understand how the environment affects humans, and the other way around too. In simple terms, humans respond to their environments. They might even move because of it. Fun fact, before 1900, every city founded was located near some sort of water source, sometimes oceans, sometimes rivers. Sometimes they hit the jackpot with both, like in the colony of New York, which became a hub of trade with access to the Hudson River and the Atlantic Ocean. When asked about human settlement, water is often a key factor. Well, why water? For starters, humans need fresh water to drink. Not to mention that for most of history, it was the fastest mode of transportation and trade. But the biggest factor is that we need water for farming, which has been the basis for basically all civilizations for about 8,000 years. No biggie. And water is just one example of how humans adapted their behavior to respond to their environment. For the geography questions that you'll see, it's important to know where major land and water areas are located. Let's move on to another key concept from this category, cultural diffusion. Let's start by hearing a little more about culture. Geographers describe places not only by their physical characteristics, but by cultural ones as well. Culture is composed of cultural traits, individual aspects of human activity that shape the social life of a place. These traits include daily routines and practices, food, language, art, and religion. Culture continually changes as societies encounter new challenges and influences, both external and internal. Okay, here's that term we've been waiting for. Cultural diffusion is the process by which cultural traits spread from one group to another. For example, baseball is considered an American sport, but is played in Canada. And hockey is considered a Canadian sport, but is played in America. The culture of the two sports diffused across the shared border. Now it's your turn with a practice question you may see in this category. The humid tropic climate best suited for growing crops like citrus can be found in what region of the United States? The answer is C, the Southeast. The Southeast United States is hot and humid with high levels of precipitation, which provides ideal conditions for growing citrus. One more category to go. The World History and Economics category is worth 35%, but that still means around 14 questions will come from this category, so you'll want to be prepped for this one too. A lot can come up about world history, including information on classical civilizations like Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Rome was both militarily and economically strong due to its geography. The Alps provided winter protection, deterring invaders from Europe. The Apennine Mountains provided not only protection, but also natural resources. The Po and Tiber River valleys produced extremely fertile soil. This allowed the Romans to grow many different crops and have a surplus of crops to trade with other societies. The location on the Mediterranean Sea allowed easy access to trade, and the wealth gained from trade allowed the Romans to expand their military strength. Rome is likely to appear on your exam, partly because it had such a huge impact on other civilizations for basically the rest of history. Okay, moving forward. Riddle me this. What do planes, cars, radios, and antibiotics all have in common? They were all developments made during the 20th century. These inventions and advances changed culture and politics forever. And because of these, you're watching this video. Can we get a whoop whoop for science? There will also be a few questions you'll need to answer about cross-cultural comparisons. This is where you'll show your knowledge on similarities and differences between cultures. Oof. Actually, this should be no big deal. 240 has plenty of graphics and videos that break down complicated concepts. Let's check out one now.
Geographers describe places not only by their physical characteristics, but by their people and cultures as well. Culture is composed of cultural traits, which are individual aspects of human activity that shape the social life of a place. These traits include daily routines and practices, food, language, art, and religion. While no two cultures are exactly the same, different cultures can have some cultural traits in common. Cultural diffusion is the process by which cultural traits spread from one group to another. For example, many new foods like tacos or lasagna have been introduced to American culture as the result of immigration. Just as cultures are influenced by new people, people are influenced by new cultures. Immigrants to a new community adjust to the norms of the new culture and adopt them as their own. This is called cultural adaptation. So remember, cultures change over time, especially when people from different cultures interact.
You can conquer this exam in no time, and it'll be a thing of the past. Let's round out this category and talk about what content you'll see in economics. After all, money makes the world go round. One of the most important economic concepts to understand for your exam is scarcity and opportunity cost. The gap between resources available and what you ideally want is called scarcity. Since people have to make choices, opportunity cost comes into play. This is the cost of an opportunity a person gives up when they make a choice. Although we most naturally associate economics with money, time is actually the most important resource to consider when thinking about opportunity cost. For example, when choosing to study for a certification exam instead of taking a nap, the opportunity cost is missing out on rest. But I definitely think you should do both. Ready for another practice question like one you can expect on the test? To round out our category, here's a world economics question. Assume the United States does not currently impose a tariff on imported horse saddles from Spain. If a tariff were imposed, what would be the effect on the United States saddle market? The answer is A, because a tariff would decrease the supply of imported saddles as the cost of imports increase. And this new situation would lead to an increase in the price. Early American history, government, and economics, oh my! It sounds like a lot, and it is, but we know this test inside and out, and we're ready to help you. Congratulations on finishing the video. There is still plenty more to learn. Did you know that our study guide has hundreds of practice questions? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the Praxis Elementary Education Social Studies exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 Study Guide. It has hours of videos so you can watch and/or listen while doing chores or working out. It is test-aligned so you know precisely what you need to study. And it has hundreds of practice questions so you can be sure you're ready. And it has the money-back guarantee. So click the link below right now to get started.